everybody. Welcome to our podcast. This is called How We Innovate with Michael Hool and Brent Siebold. So happy to be here.
Awesome to be here. Yeah.
Jake, thanks for joining us on this episode of How We Innovate. Please do tell the audience here, what are you up to, man? What's your story?
Yeah, so I'm an entrepreneur. And I assume there's some TEM students here. Is TEM still what it's called?
Tech Entrepreneurship Management.
Yeah, okay, we got one. Okay, well, I was, so TEM is a program at ASU, and I was assuming there'd be more people, so this doesn't mean anything to anyone here, but except for him. I was part of the first class when it started in 2011, so there was like 5 people, and we were the first cohort of oh, look at that, yeah. So I was part of the first entrepreneurial class back in 2011. I started a mobile app when I was in college, raised some money for that. I then started a men's underwear company, which was a fun thing to do. I had a license for hacky sack in parallel with that. I actually left ASU my senior year and finished my degree with online classes, but went to LA for that. And I now have a wireless power company, and so we do wireless charging technology. We have about 150 patents for the patent assets. Got to be careful next to a lawyer. So a patent asset is just an asset that's on its way to becoming a patent. We have about 40 granted and then 110 that are in the pipeline. So it's a fairly advanced form of wireless power. We charge common smartphones, earbuds, really. There's a global standard for wireless power that everybody operates under. We operate under that same standard. We've improved upon it. And now we supply our technology to companies in the industry that want to provide better wireless charging experiences to their customers. So that's kind of like the quick overview. The company has 3 CES Innovation Awards, which is something I'm fairly proud of. CES being the largest consumer electronics show. That's what it stands for, Consumer Electronics Show. But it's also the biggest consumer electronics show in the world every year in Las Vegas. And then we were named by Fast Company the 5th most innovative company in consumer electronics a few years ago as well. So some cool things, some cool recognitions, some great technology, and it's been a lot of fun.
Hey, before you move on to off the tech, can you just explain in layman's terms what your technology does? How does it work?
Yeah, sure. So I assume by now, 2023, everybody's used a wireless charger. And so the problem with wireless charging is that there's a small active area, and if you don't put your phone precisely on that active area, you don't charge. And to me, and the reason I started the business is I see that as a fundamental flaw in the value proposition of wireless power. What I mean by that is wireless power is meant to solve really only one purpose, and that's convenience. Similar to like a Wi-Fi, it's meant to be more convenient for your life. And needing to line your phone up precisely on the center of a charger isn't really convenient at all. In fact, it's less convenient than just plugging it in. And so what we've developed is a surface power style technology that you could place devices anywhere across the surface and receive power. And so the best example I can give of another company who's tried to do this was in 2017, Apple announced a technology called AirPower. And it was at their iPhone keynote. And it's actually the only product in Apple's history that they publicly announced and then canceled. And our technology is functionally equivalent to that original vision that they had for wireless power.
So you guys beat out the Apple engineers in go-to-market on this thing.
We got the technology to market. I can't speak to why they didn't make it to market. It could have been engineering challenges. It could have been other things, but they never released the technology, and we fortunately have. We launched our first version of the technology in 2020, and we've now just announced the first version of our Gen 2 with a product with Tesla about a month ago. So the product launched on Tesla's website the day before Christmas and is available for purchase now. And then we have several product launches coming up over the next year. Well, over the next few years, but also this year.
So exciting. Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
What a journey. Yeah, give it up. So cool. So given that we are sitting in front of a room full of folks that are either starting companies or potentially want to be part of a company, I'm glad you shared your connection back to ASU, and I'm very proud because Jake was in one of my very first classes that I taught in the realm of entrepreneurship. So I wish I could take full credit for success.
He gets it all. He gets everything.
But yeah, after the underwear startup, he was long gone, and I didn't talk to him probably for another 3 or 4 years after that. But I actually missed the part of your story where you connected with your co-founders, specifically Eric. I know played a key role in helping you envision how this technology might actually work. Could you? This is a screenshot from a while ago that I stole off your website,
Yeah.
and so this might be a little outdated. But could you speak to, how the initial founding team got together, and then I also know that you guys were able to poach some very senior engineers from Silicon Valley, and I think it was on the back end of that Apple pivot, right? So.
Yeah, so we'll start with the first part. So just the general story of starting the company. So I had the idea on October 31st, 2017. And really the idea was why it was really actually just like one of those moments where you're like, wait a minute, why doesn't this work this way? And the thought was, why don't all my devices charge because they're sitting on the table? My laptop and tablet and phone and everything, it should just charge while it's there. And so that was the original vision for Surface Power. We now call the technology Free Power, but that was the original vision. And so I immediately dove in. And a few weeks later, I was kind of looking for a technical co-founder, someone who could start to develop the first proof of concept for the technology. And I remember that there was this guy at the ASU Polytechnic campus that was quite outspoken for creating these large Tesla coils. And for those who don't know, a Tesla coil it was invented by Nikola Tesla in the late 1800s, but it's basically a tower that spits out electricity. And so he built these really large ones. He won the Guinness Book of World Record for most powerful Tesla coil ever built, and then played music with it. So when the electricity goes through the air, it actually creates a frequency that turns into sound, and you could change the frequency to change the sound. And so on YouTube, he had like Sweet Home Alabama and different songs, and they were getting millions of views. And that was like in the driveway of his house on the Polytechnic campus at ASU. So when I had the idea, I was reaching out to my network to see who might be a good fit for a hardware technology product, which is hard to come by. A lot of people are interested in software these days. And through a friend of mine from ASU Polytechnic, he connected me with Eric. I spoke with Eric, he dove in, and that was really the start of the company.
Yeah, we can't wait until the point when he's sitting here and says, "Yeah, I met Eric at the Techie Palooza."
Yeah. Could
So-
happen today.
Yeah, I mean, if you think of it that way, that's kind of the goal of what we're doing here today. So, what about just the initial baby steps from ideation to initial funding of the company? I mean, like, let's go chronologically.
Yeah, so it was all very incremental. So the very first money I raised, I think, was $27,000. And it was as sort of just a networked relationship that I had that believed in my ability as an entrepreneur. He didn't know anything about wireless power. I didn't know anything about wireless power, but he just believed that there could be something there. And so we took that first $27,000 and we built a very rough prototype that if you just looked at it quickly, it seemed like it was the real thing. And so, but it was proof that it could be done. That was the key there. It wasn't like we were selling smoke and mirrors. It was proof that it could be done. And we took that to a company that was one of a leading direct-to-consumer consumer electronic accessory company. So you could think like a Belkin or a Logitech, but a company called Nomad. And the founders of that company knew about AirPower. It was announced by Apple in 2017. It was supposed to come out. It hadn't come out yet. And they wanted to compete with Apple. So we said, if you invest in us, then we'll finish this technology. We'll get it to market for you. And so they invested and licensed the technology. So our first funding that had any real consequence to hire employees and start to build the technology was through a strategic. And then from there, we got on Shark Tank, and we went on Shark Tank. And we did a 3-shark deal. So we're one of the few companies in Shark Tank history to do a deal with 3 sharks, 3 or more sharks. Kevin was getting a little handsy with me, apparently. So we went on Shark Tank. We went and then raised angel funding. And then we went and did a larger round, which was mostly local and mostly high net worth and like business leaders throughout the local area, actually. And so we raised about $12 million in that round.
Yeah, you can't just say, we did Shark Tank and then move on. You got You got to tell us some Shark Tank lore. Like what the heck? What's going on behind the scenes at Shark Tank?
Yeah, so people don't realize, but Shark Tank is 100% real. In fact, if the sharks learn anything about you before you walk out to pitch to them, you get canceled. And so if you try to reach out through your network or somebody reaches out on your behalf, you'll get thrown off the show. So you get there and you're there for a few days. You're meeting with the producers and they're kind of vetting you and making sure that you're ready to film. And then right before you go on, they kind of get everyone, they film about 12 companies a day. So they get everyone together and the producers come over and they give you this like really big hype up speech that this is like the Super Bowl for entrepreneurs. And you got to give it your all and leave everything on the field. And so they really try and hype you up because you're going to be on national television and you don't want that to not go well for you. And so I was walking out to go on Shark Tank on the Shark Tank set. It's just a big sound stage in one of the movie production lots in LA. I think it's Sony Picture Studios. So it's where they film like Spider-Man. And I think the unit where Shark Tank is where they do, where they did, what was that first movie? That was the first movie that was black and white and then went to color, like the Yellow Brick Road.
That sounds right, yeah.
What's that? Someone? Wizard of Oz, there you go. So they filmed Wizard of Oz in that same soundstage. But so they just have this little setup, and they bring one company in at a time, and they mic you up while the other company's finishing. And so I'm getting mic'd up, and Kevin is just tearing the company apart. That was on before me. And then the other sharks are tearing them apart, and I'm sitting there like, all right, this is not a good idea. What am I doing here? And so they get torn apart because you can hear everything. So they just have like these kind of mock structures. And so I was like, this is the worst idea I've ever had in my life. What am I doing? But we walked out, and the first 90 seconds is scripted. So you have like a little 90-second pitch that you do with the producers. And it's just so they can make sure that they get some key content, like what's your name, where are you from, what's your product, why is it special? And then from there, the sharks just fire off questions nonstop. And most people are out there for anywhere between an hour and an hour and a half. And they cut it down to about 8 minutes. So we went out there, did the thing. They edited us to look great. It wasn't that smooth. And then we got the 3-shark deal.
Let's see, round of applause for that. I mean, that's rare, right? Not many people get all 3 sharks to buy in.
And what do you think that did for you? Did it actually help jumpstart it?
Yeah, so the sharks are incredibly well connected. They're all, they're all entrepreneurs themselves. So you get a lot of insights from their experiences. You get the benefit of the relationships. You get aired on national television. It happens to be the #1 viewed family show in America. So I think they get like 13 or 15 million views per episode. And then there's the years of reruns on Hulu and CNBC. Like I was walking into like a sports bar one time and they were just doing a rerun and I like saw my face on the television. Yeah, so you see that. So it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting thing to be able to go on that show and get that promotion and interface and get the support from the Sharks.
It's cool. So it looks like it's you and Eric were representing the company on stage. I'm assuming you did the pitch.
It was shared.
It's been a while since I watched the clip.
Yeah, no, it was shared. So I spoke to the business and the business details, and he spoke to the technical.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, Eric should be here to speak to all the techies in the room. But yeah, he's a great kid, and you guys are kicking butt. So you guys are headquartered here in Phoenix.
Yeah, so we're located in Phoenix. We're right off of 44th Street. We just got that new office. We're about 30 employees now, roughly. Yeah, we started, again, on October 31st, 2017. So we're about a little over 5 years in, 5.5 years.
I was going to say, getting back to Shark Tank, my favorite line is Mr. Wonderful when he looks at the entrepreneur and says, "You have a really great company there. I could see you making hundreds of dollars."
Yeah, he's pretty ruthless. Or when he tells you to go behind a barn and shoot.
Just shoot it.
Yeah, that's pretty rough too.
All right, so after Shark Tank, how did you, like, a lot of the entrepreneurs are always at that point. They need to raise some money and, friends and family or whatever, they've reached out. But when you want to start the trek of, a real round, whether it's probably a seed round, but $1 million, whatever it is, how did you start? How did you start that process?
Yeah, so if you're raising hundreds of thousands typically to maybe $1 million or a few million. There's different categories of funding, right? There's like tens of thousands, and then there's like 100 to like $1 million or maybe a few million, and then there's millions up to 10 or so, and then you get to the tens of millions and beyond that. But when you're in the lowest bracket there, the tens of thousands, a lot of funding competitions, friends and family is a really common way to find that kind of money.
And you have no revenue at that point, obviously.
Typically you don't. Not us.
Yeah,
we certainly didn't. Yeah, we had to develop the technology for many years with a lot of engineers before we could reach revenue. There's obviously a new age of direct to consumer and online businesses that can help you get to revenue quicker, which is obviously a really good thing if you can do that. But once you get to the hundreds of thousands of dollars range up to $1 million or so, there's several angel investment groups throughout the country that you can approach that have mostly groupings of high net worth individuals that are willing to write checks of tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands each. And they're usually collectives of people that will evaluate deals together and then go in as a group. And so I worked with different angel groups. I worked with strategics. So once our technology was on Shark Tank and was seen, there was different companies who approached us who knew that they wanted the technology. And so when I say strategics, I'm talking about companies that we could partner with that are investing strategically so they can ultimately use our technology and gain an advantage in the market. And so we were able to raise money through strategics as well at that phase.
So in the angel group community or just other high net worths that you came across, given that you really had some period of time before you were going to be in revenue, and you had a lot of product risk, technology risk, what was your pitch? Like, how did you raise money? What did you focus on?
What was the proof points to get them to write a check?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so for me, the whole journey, there's always sort of a threshold of proof points that you need to convince somebody to give you something, in this case, money. And so I've always tried to build the business in a way that there's milestones that we can hit that would make us fundable at whatever stage we're at. And so one of the fundable milestones at that time, back in sort of the Shark Tank days, was we had to deal with the company Nomad that I mentioned before, who was a top 20 Shopify website, direct consumer electronic company. And so we were able to use the contract that we had with them, that relationship, to show investors that we had market traction. And then we had ongoing conversations with different, again, strategics who are really interested in the technology that told us as long as we can get the thing working and into a market viable place, then they would purchase it and ship it to their customers. And so it was really the blend of the business or the biz dev proof points and the demo that we built that, if you looked at it again for a short period of time, appeared to work pretty well. So.
Not Theranos well, but pretty well.
Not quite as well as Theranos.
You're going to end up better.
Better, yeah. So
just as end disclaimer, we do have technology in the market now, and it works. It's industry leading in a lot of ways, and so we're.
So let's look back on just the last few months, if not the last year. You guys have had growth in terms of not only capital, but you've added headcount to the company at the leadership level and throughout, I'm sure, the ranks. And then you were just named 30 under 30, man. So congratulations. This just came out, right?
Yeah. So this is Next 1000. So this came out about a year or two ago, and then 30 under 30 came out a few months ago. So yeah, it was really cool.
Making us proud here at ASU. That's not an easy list to make. Yeah. Awesome. So, Michael, I think we should wrap up, and then I'm sure there's folks in the audience that want to ask some questions. But Jake, let's circle back. Like if you could, assuming somebody in this room might be, well, we have some TEM graduates, but any major, right, that are thinking about following this path of technology venture creation, is there one or two pieces of advice that you wish you can go back and give yourself?
My younger self? Yeah. Are you looking for tactical advice or more just
Your pick,
methodical advice?
Yeah. I mean, tactical is always helpful, but yeah, let's do a tactical and strategic.
Okay. So I'd say from a tactical standpoint, whatever it is that you're working on, the most important thing that you can do is is gain traction with the product. So whatever that means for you, right? Whether that's letter of intent from a customer if you're B2B, or pre-orders from a customer if you're direct to consumer. Proof points are the fundamental, most valuable thing you can do. I guess second, from a tactical standpoint, I would say that when you're launching a business, a startup, there's not really, you don't, so if you look at like sports, I'm not much of a sports person, but if you look at sports, there's progressions of the game, of levels of the game, right? So you start maybe in elementary school, and you go through the different schools, you get to college, and there's even different levels within college, and then there's minor leagues and major leagues, right? And so you kind of get this bring up progression into this pinnacle of competition. One of the challenges with and maybe this isn't going to be very inspirational, but one of the challenges with a startup is that you're competing against everybody. You're competing at the pinnacle of that category, right? And so if your job is to compete against Apple, or if you have a product that competes with Apple, well, Apple's your competition. And so there's a lot of advantages that startups have. You can move fast, you can be nimble. You don't have to deal with the bureaucracy of a large organization, so you can make decisions quickly, you can pivot. But the tactical point that I'm getting at here is you need to just remember that you're competing in a space where nobody cares about your size. They just want the good product and the good experience or whatever it might be that you're selling to them. And so you need to not only worry about your product, which is of course critical and the most critical thing, but all the other functions of the business. So there's many functions of a business. There's product and marketing and creative, and especially in this building, there's a lot of creative. There's finance and operations. And so you have all these different functions, and you need to make sure that all those functions are being executed upon. A lot of times people want to focus on if you're a product person, you want to focus on your product, or if you're a business person, you want to focus on the sale or growing the business, but you need to focus on all functions, because without that, you can't build a larger organization. You can't build an organization that's able to operate and succeed. So each one of those categories you always want to be hypercritical about and think, how can I do this to the best of our ability, to a world-class level if possible, and always kind of maintain that mindset of how do I always level up each function of the business to the best of your ability based on the resources and the team skill sets and things like that. So that's more tactical. And then methodically, I would say when you start a business, you're going to spend potentially 5 years or 10 years or maybe even a few decades of your life on it. And so when you're thinking about a business that you want to start, there's really, in my mind, there's a lot of things that you really want to consider, but there's two thresholds that I think are the most important things to consider to decide to dive in, considering how long of your future it might absorb. And so those two things are, one, you want to make sure whatever you're doing, unless you're looking for a quick buck, which is totally fine if that's your goal, but you want to make sure that what you're doing has a place in the world in the future. So 5 years out or 10 years out or even a few decades out, is it still an impactful product? Is there still, or the evolution of whatever you're doing, is it impactful? Does the world still want it? Does it belong in a world of the future? And so trying to have that kind of foresight to make sure that whatever you invest your whole life into, and possibly the lives of your co-founders and employees and the resources of your investors and the strategics and everything, before you make that big commitment, is this something that has that longevity? So that's one piece. And then the second piece is there are infinite ways to become incredibly successful in this world, which is one of the beautiful things about being an entrepreneur, is you can literally do anything. And so there's definitely a lot of trendy items and things that are particularly appealing because they might be the thing of the moment, or just have a lot of visibility on them, or just a large market size. And those things are great, and I don't discourage anybody from going down a path that is like a ChatGPT type of thing, which is obviously one of the most influential things amongst the entrepreneurial community and just the tech community in general. But the point I'm trying to get to is you need to do something that you truly care about, that you're truly passionate about. I know it's kind of a cliche thing to say, but at the end of the day, when you start a business, There's going to be many dark days, many dark years possibly. There's going to be a lot of times where you think you're succeeding and then you're crashing, and then you think you're succeeding again and then you're almost bankrupt. Even you look at like a Tesla. So Tesla, of course, I know it's Elon Musk is quite controversial at the moment, but it's still one of the most valuable companies on the planet right now. They almost went bankrupt in 2018. Apple, which is the most valuable company on the planet, almost went bankrupt when Steve Jobs left, and then ultimately he came back and turned it around. But even the largest companies in the world are at risk of catastrophic events. And in order to make it through those catastrophic events and lead your team through it, you need to really believe in what you're doing and really care about it, because that could happen months from now, years from now, decades from now.
Yeah, I got one question for you, but you said something that made me think. I want to just kind of get a poll from the audience. Are you guys using ChatGPT? How many? Are you finding, like, isn't that insane? It's insane. Like, I just can't believe how like, how many doors that can open, speed things up for you, you know?
Yeah,
So
it's kind of like
it's really interesting.
I think it's the equivalence of of when the internet really was created.
Yeah, it's awesome. So my question for you is, you've raised a bunch of money. How much did you last round?
We've raised about 15 million.
Okay, so he's got some money in the bank. He's raised a chunk of money. If you were to look out like the next 12 months, and don't just say sales. If you say sales, say sales, and here's how we're going to get them.
Okay.
Like, tell us what your big push is going to be for you personally.
So fortunately, our sales have happened over the past few years, and now the big challenge that I face is execution of those sales. So it's one thing to get a company we're B2B, so we sell technology to, like I said, we launched with Tesla, so we sell the technology to Tesla, and that's what their wireless charger on their website works with our tech. Our tech is free power, so if you go to the website, you'll see it there. But the next 12 months for me is ramping up production to meet the volume requirements that they have. And we have 4 or 5 other product launches as well coming up that will also be challenging. So launching all the customer programs, we're a 30-person team, but we need to be like a 100-person team right now to deal with the business that we have. And so that's the big push over the next 12 months is going from, I think so for the past 5 years, we've mostly been like an R&D firm. And so we have our 150 patent assets. We've developed the technology to commercial maturity. The next phase is sort of transitioning to being a real company, exactly.
Yeah.
So having operating staff and global supply chain and global support and global sales and all the things that you need to survive as a company that distributes product to companies all over the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Good luck, man. Good luck.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hey, let's give it up for Jake Slatnick, everybody. Thank you. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate you being here as always. Jake, it was such a great honor to have you back on campus and talking about how we innovate methodically using these tactics. I mean, it's not easy. Everyone sitting in this audience, myself included, Michael knows as well, it's about execution. And you've got that caring mentality. This is your vision. This is your baby. But I think everyone here knows that, when you wake up every day, you're grinding. I mean, you are working your butt off. So
yeah, if you get a chance to wake up that day. I mean, if you just stay up all night, you just grind through.
That's right. Yeah, don't go to sleep. Yeah, it's a 7-day-a-week schedule for this phase of the company, right?
Yeah. For the last 5 years.
Well, hey, it's been an honor to have Jake here. We're going to flip over to our next episode. I don't know who we're going to have in come next, but Michael, thanks for being here. Jake, we'll see you next time, man.
No problem.